Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. I want to thank you all for attending today's session on scholarships, higher education scholarships and grants opportunities. And to let you know that this webinar is being recorded so that people who were not able to attend today will be able to view it later. It will be posted on the Vermont Association for the Education of Young Children website within the next few days. So again, I want to thank you for attending today's webinar that has this focus on scholarships and grants opportunities that are currently available either through existing state funds or new monies available to people here in our state. And we're going to go over each of those in a few minutes. If you're interested, there are certainly other private sources of grants and scholarships. And if you're interested in those, they're listed in the VSAC scholarships and grants booklet, and that resource will be posted on a slide at the end. I'm going to start sharing my screen now, so just give me a second. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to, whoops, let me go back. Today's presenters will be Brian DeLude, and Ryan is with CCV, Marilyn Cargill, she's with VSAC, Brenda Schramm with the Vermont AEYC, and myself, Diane Carter from the Vermont AEYC. So I'd like to give each of them an opportunity to just say hello when they are presenting their slides and maybe say a little bit more about who they are. I want to emphasize that today's presentation is going to cover general information about new and existing scholarships and grants for early childhood educators. The intent is to really provide enough information for you so that you can guide and direct your staff to the experts so that you know who to send them to, not necessarily that you have all of the information and that you're expected to be the expert on these grants and scholarships. There'll be time at the end of the presentation for general questions. So if you have a general question, please put it into the Q&A and we'll answer as many questions as possible at the end of the presentation. We're not going to be answering questions that are really specific to an individual's situation or needs, because again, we're encouraging people to reach out to the appropriate experts, whether that be their higher ed institution, VSAC, Teach, myself, if you're interested in a child development division tuition grant, but to reach out to the appropriate institution, organization, or person. So I'd like to start with Ryan DeLude, who's going to talk about opportunities for or through Vermont State Colleges. Ryan?
Thank you, Diane. Hi, everyone. I'm Ryan DeLude. I'm Director of Financial Aid at the Community College of Vermont, which is part of the Vermont State Colleges system. Before I get started, I just want to say, as the dad of a 4-year-old and 2-year-old, I just want to thank you all for all you do to support families like mine as early childhood professionals. So the legislature this past session provided a historic investment in the Vermont State Colleges system and our students. And that's in the form of more than $15 million that the Vermont State Colleges system has received in scholarship money to be able to provide opportunities to students. And I'm going to talk about a few of those today. First, I wanted to talk is called the Welcome Home Scholarship. And that is really for students that are either transferring from an out-of-state institution back to Vermont, or students that exited, meaning they withdrew or they weren't able to complete their courses or were granted a leave of absence during the last year plus. students that are full-time, which typically is 4 or more classes, they receive $5,000 per year for full-time studies. And students that are taking 6 to 11 credits per year receive $3,000 per year in that. And so really the place where that can unlock for students is when you take 2 or more classes. I did want to say that all of these programs are available to be viewed on yourfuture.vsc.edu as a website. You can also visit the Vermont State College's institution of your choice, which is CCV, Vermont Technical College, Northern Vermont University, and Castleton University. You can visit each of respective institutions' websites to review more information too. Second scholarship we have is called the Degree Completion Scholarship, and that's for students that at this point do not have a bachelor's degree. They are eligible for federal student aid, and there's some specific requirements behind that. But it's really for students that have completed 40 or more college credits and haven't been in college since May of 2019. So it's those students that have been out of school for a couple of years, are looking to have some opportunities to get back into it, to further career or to get a credential or degree. So those students can come in, and that provides tuition-free college for those students up to 30 credits per year. So typically for the majority of our students across the Vermont State Colleges systems, they typically go 15 credits in the fall and 15 in the spring. For early childhood professionals, that may look different for you folks, and that may be less than that, and that's okay. It can cover up to 30 credits per academic year. And that's owed after a student completes the free application for federal student aid, or FAFSA, and the Vermont grant application, which Marilyn will be talking about in a little bit. So they complete those 2 items, and then any federal or state aid, and that does include the TEACH grant, that also includes the CDD tuition assistance grant. Once all of those things are sort of lumped in, whatever the tuition bill is left over, the degree completion scholarship will cover. So the great news is this nearly gets a student to a free college experience this academic year, which is fantastic. Again, yourfuture.vsc.edu is the website to visit for all of this information, all of these scholarships for the Vermont State Colleges system. Could you advance the slide, please, Diane? Thank you. The last one that I wanted to talk about, and one that you likely all have seen in the media of late, is what we're calling the critical occupation scholarships. That is for Vermonters. Again, Vermonters that don't have a degree at this point that are eligible for federal financial aid. And there's specific academic programs for early childhood professionals at 3 of our 4 institutions. So at Castleton, that's the bachelor's in early childhood and special education. At CCV, that's the associates in early childhood education, as well as the certificate in childcare. And at Northern Vermont University, that's the online bachelor's degree in early childhood education. Similar to the degree completion scholarship, that scholarship will cover any tuition that is owed after any federal or state financial aid is included for that. So the student is still going to want to complete that free application for federal student aid, or the FAFSA, still want to complete the Vermont grant application, and then any TEACH or CDD tuition assistance that's included after that. Once that's taken care of, the critical occupation scholarship would cover the remainder of the tuition at that point. You all have likely seen this in places like VTAEYC and other places, hearing about information that funding has been exhausted. For CCV, funding had never been exhausted. We have continued to accept students and award the scholarship programs. For the other Vermont State Colleges, funding has opened back up, and we are able to continue moving forward and providing opportunities for those students.
Great. Thank you, Ryan. All right, I'm going to advance the slide. And Marilyn.
Hi, I'm Marilyn Cargill. I am the Vice President of Financial Aid Services, Marketing and Research at VSAC. And we also have a few new programs that we just wanted to make you aware of. So the first one that I'm going to speak to is the Green Mountain Grad. This is a gift to high school seniors from the classes of 2020 and 2021. So if a student completed high school in either of those years, the legislature has made them eligible for one course at any of the Vermont State College schools. And this, Ryan said just a moment ago, that includes Northern Vermont University, Castleton University, CCV, or Vermont Technical College. This is not a need-based program. So if the student graduated in one of those years or completed high school in one of those years and attends one of the state colleges, they will automatically receive funding for one of the courses that they enroll in. The course can be in a degree program or a non-degree program. It can be an online course, an in-person course. It really does not matter. And for more information about that, they can go to vsac.org/grad. The second program that I'll mention is 802 Opportunity. This is another new program from the Vermont legislature. And the purpose of this program is to open up access to higher education to low and moderate income Vermonters. So Vermonters with incomes of less than $50,000, as reported on the free application for federal student aid, the FAFSA, who are attending CCV in a degree program will be considered for this funding. You know, and let me just say for a second, if I know Ryan and I have both said on a large number of these programs, you start by filling out the FAFSA and filling out a Vermont grant application. Those applications are available online. You can get them at the vsac.org site. You can access the FAFSA, I'm sure, from the Vermont State College system sites. You can go to the the US Department of Education to access them. But if students need help filling those out, if you have staff who are looking for assistance, VSAC has outreach counselors that help adult students all the time fill these forms out. So you could go to VSAC or have them go to VSAC and ask to speak to an outreach counselor, and we could have someone help them actually file those forms. So for 802 Opportunity, once those forms have been filed, just like some of the other programs that Ryan mentioned, we are going to look at their Pell Grant eligibility, their state grant eligibility, and whether or not they were eligible for any Green Mountain Grad funding. We'll subtract that from the amount of tuition that they are being charged, and whatever is left is what will be covered by 802 Opportunity. This is a 2-year program, so it's going to be running for the fall and spring of 21-22, and then again in the fall and spring of 22-23. So if a student had the ability to be full-time, and I know not all students will, but if they did, you could see a student take 15 credits this fall, 15 credits in the spring, do the same thing next year, and students with family incomes of less than $50,000 could receive their associate's degree without having to pay tuition. The one thing I want to be careful about, though, is free tuition and free school is not the same thing. And I just want to be clear. Students still need to be purchasing books, and there may be other funding sources to help with that. But books are not covered by 802 Opportunity, and class-specific fees. So if you have a lab fee or an art supply fee, that is also not covered by 802 Opportunity. Diane, if you'd advance me, that would be great. In addition to those two programs, which are brand new, VSAC has been running the Vermont State Grant programs for over 50 years. And this is just another program that any of your students who are in degree programs, should be applying for. This is based completely on financial need. They need to fill out that FAFSA and the Vermont grant application, and we will determine their eligibility for a state grant in a degree program. We also have the advancement grant program, which is another one of the Vermont state grants. And the advancement grant program helps students in non-matriculated programs. So if you have a student who's not applying for admission, but is interested in taking 1 or 2 courses to improve their skill sets, they are welcome to apply for the advancement grant. And that application is available on the VSAC.org website under the tab marked grants.
Great. Thank you, Marilyn. Okay, Brenda.
Thanks, Diane. My name's Brenda Schramm, and I am the Vermont AEYC Early Childhood Education Workforce Development Director. And part of my work focuses on the TEACH program and the Vermont Early Childhood Education Apprenticeship Program. So I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about the TEACH scholarships. And TEACH stands for Teacher Education and Compensation Helps. And it's a comprehensive scholarship program that provides access to debt-free educational opportunities. And as you can see, we have the eligibility listed. The applicants must be working in a regulated early childhood program, working at least 30 hours a week, and have been working for 3 months prior to applying. And we have scholarship opportunities for all types of scholars. So they can be somebody that is a staff person working in a center. It can be for like a director owner that's working in a center. And we also have scholarships for family child care program, like the owner, or if they're staff working in the program. And the types that we offer are the Vermont Early Childhood Education Apprenticeship Program Scholarship, the Associate's Degree in Early Childhood Education through CCV Scholarship, and then the Bachelor's Degree in Early Childhood Education is a brand new model that we're launching that will start in the fall. And we are currently partnered with Northern Vermont University, Castleton, St. Michael's, Springfield College, and Champlain College to offer that model. And then we also offer scholarships for licensure and endorsement in early childhood education. And there's 3 models. One is a straight peer review model that would offer funding to help with the fee for the portfolio. There's another scholarship that is the Champlain model, and that is to cover the cost of the Champlain portfolio review course and the portfolio peer review portfolio fee. And then there's another scholarship where we collaborate with the Vermont Higher Education Collaborative, and that is a scholarship that helps those who are interested in licensure if they have a few more courses that they need to take, and helps them achieve that goal. And then the eligibility is the same as I spoke about for all of the models. And then all of the models are comprehensive. We offer, there are different breakdowns of what the scholar would owe and what the program would owe, and all of that information is on our website, where my contact information is there underneath. On our website, under each model, there are charts and breakdowns of what would be owed. And what we're trying to do today is just provide some information, and I am very happy to follow up with anybody individually. Or what I've been doing over the last few weeks is some directors have asked me to follow up with a phone call at a staff meeting or a quick Zoom session with staff just to share some more information and answer questions. And I'm happy to do that if anyone has additional questions. But all of the information and applications are on our website. Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, Brenda. Great. And the last opportunity we're going to talk about today are the Child Development Division tuition grants. These have been available for some time, and interestingly enough, I got a call today from someone who's attending classes at CCV and was not aware of this and heard about it. She'd been taking classes for a few years, 1 or 2 classes a semester, and she heard about it just today from a colleague. So even though they've been available, there's still some people who are not aware of them. These, as I said, these are funded through the federal dollars actually, and that go through the Child Development Division. And the eligibility requirements are that the person requesting the funding has to have been employed for at least 3 months by a regulated childcare program. That can be a center-based or a family childcare program, as long as they're regulated. The coursework should be related to a career in early childhood education. That does not mean that the course must be an early childhood education course. So if they're in a degree granting program, those general ed requirements that they need for their degree, those would qualify as well. And I wanted to point out that if someone is receiving a Teach Scholarship, or if they are an employee of public schools who are paid on the teacher salary schedule, they are not actually eligible for this grant. Someone could be a paraprofessional, however, and be working in a public school, and because they're not on that teacher's schedule, they would still be eligible. So the purpose of the tuition assistance grant is to assist individuals with the cost of college tuition related to their role in providing direct services to children. The maximum amount is $1,000 per student per semester, and that is only for tuition. So that $1,000 would not, or the amount eligible to them would not be for books or any fees that the college might assess on them. Students who are enrolled in the assessment of prior learning course, they may request funding up to $1,000 to include that portfolio review as well. For people who are interested in this, they can reach out to me directly. You see my telephone number is listed, and my email address, diane.carter@vermontaeyc.org. With any questions, the application for this can be found at the Child Development Division website. So if someone just did a Google search and for CDD tuition assistance grant, you would easily find that. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide. I want to point out some of the resources that have been discussed today. The first one is for the Teach Scholarship, which is actually our website, Vermont AYC, where you can find information on the Teach Scholarship, the apprenticeship program, both of those that Brenda talked about, the CDD tuition grants, and other information on career pathways. And that website is vermontaeyc.org. I also want to encourage you to have your staff get in touch with Northern Lights at CCV Resource Advisors to talk about career pathways and professional development questions that they might have. And that website is northernlightsccv.org. As Ryan pointed out, there is information regarding Vermont State College opportunities at yourfuturevsc.edu. General information, as Marilyn pointed out, for VSAC can be found at VSAC.org. And I mentioned earlier in the presentation, there is a scholarship book for Vermonters. This can be found at the VSAC.org website, or this email, this address, not email, but this website will take you directly to it. And finally, I can't stress enough that the financial aid office at the higher education institution in which they're taking courses is an example for them to get all the correct and up-to-date information about grants and scholarship opportunities that are available to them. And here's contact information for people who were presenting today. I want to thank each of them again for taking the time to present this information. We do have a couple questions, so I'm going to start with these. The first one is, what if a person has a bachelor degree, but it's not in early childhood education and they need that degree? So I assume that the question is, if they already have a bachelor's, but it's not in early childhood, are these opportunities still available to them? And maybe Ryan, I'll start with you, if you can start with an answer to that.
Yeah, well, and I'll say the Welcome Home Scholarship does not require a bachelor's degree on the part of the student. However, for degree completion in critical occupations, a bachelor's degree, if a student has a bachelor's degree, regardless of what degree it is in, it does prevent them from being eligible for that. But I would say that it's a great question that I think warrants contacting the institution that you're interested in attending, because there may be additional opportunities that are available that you could talk with them about. For instance, this didn't make it to press before this presentation, but the Vermont State College's system just recently came out with some free training programs for students to receive 2 free courses, two tuition-free courses, I should say, at the Vermont State College's system. The website for that is vtworkers.vsc.edu. And students that have a bachelor's degree are eligible for that program. So again, that's just one of the ways in which students can, it may require a couple more puzzle pieces that you have to put together rather than a program like this. But there's certainly possibilities out there. And again, like the previous slide, the financial aid office at the institution you're considering is the best resource.
Great, thank you. Marilyn, anything to add to that?
The only thing I'll add to that, so most of the VSAC programs we discussed today are for first bachelor degrees only. However, that's not true of the advancement grant. Someone can have a bachelor's degree and still apply to take courses in a non-degree program, so one of the training programs, and receive funding. So again, either talking to someone at the school or talking to one of our adult outreach counselors would be the best place to find out what is the right avenue to get this staff person to be able to move forward.
Thank you. Brenda, anything to add?
Sorry, nope.
Okay,
I think it was covered. Thanks.
great. I do want to say that for the CDD tuition grants, if someone has a bachelor's and maybe that is not related to early childhood education, but are trying to move up in terms of a credential, then that CDD tuition grant could be helpful to them. So they should apply for that. Okay, the next question is, will any of the grant programs pay for early childhood education graduate programs for those who have a bachelor's in unrelated fields who want to become qualified teachers in a childcare center and then become a licensed teacher, such as the one offered online at Champlain College? So anyone can jump in to answer this.
And yeah, I will say just that at this point, the scholarships that we that Welcome Home and degree completion at this point are limited to undergraduate courses. The critical occupation scholarship does have some limited graduate degree programs, but I don't believe early childhood ed is one of those programs that is eligible.
Okay, Thank you. Marilyn, anything to add?
Yeah, I will just say that I mentioned the advancement grant could be used by someone who has a bachelor's degree, but it cannot be used for graduate education.
Okay,
So
All
that's
right.
not available.
all right. And Brenda, I know that the Teach does not currently have a master's program option.
That's
Again, the CDD tuition grants could be used. There is a limit to $1,000 for tuition only, but educators could apply for that. The next question is there a limit to how many Teach recipients a center can support? And is there still room in the bachelor's program? Brenda?
In the past, there has been a limit. We are looking at revisiting some of those policies. So right now it's, we had limited it to two recipients per model per center, but it's very much based also on what can the center support, because each recipient would need to receive the same amount, which is the 10% towards tuition and the release time and everything. So it's a conversation we have with each center as this situation arises, and the limit might be changing in the future, but right now it has been 2. And we are accepting applications for the bachelor's program. Is there still room? That's sort of like a loaded question. I would just suggest everyone to apply. We are processing applications, so I will not discourage anybody from applying. Please do share that anybody can apply for the bachelor's degree program, and all of that information is on the website, the 5 colleges and university information.
Thank you, Brenda.
Sure.
There have been a couple questions about whether we will be sending out the PowerPoint presentation with the slides. We can do that. I also want to remind people that this has been recorded, so you have access to that. That will be on the Vermont AEYC website probably by tomorrow afternoon, I would think that will be on there. The next question is, would someone who is taking college courses at an out-of-state college or university be eligible for the CDD tuition assistance grant or a Teach scholarship? Brenda, you want to start?
Sure. The Teach scholarships are limited to the colleges and universities that we are partnered with for each model. So it would not apply to someone who's taking courses at an out-of-state program.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of the CDD tuition assistance grant, one of the eligibility requirements is that the person be employed in a Vermont regulated childcare program. So if they are employed in Vermont, but taking courses at an out-of-state, so somebody who's on the New York border, say, and going to a college in New York, I'm not, I don't think I've had that situation. I'm not 100%, but my guess is that they could be. Brenda, do you know the answer to that?
Could they take, sorry, I was reading some.
If they're working in a Vermont regulated program, but yet taking a course in an out-of-state college, would they still be eligible for that? I think so.
I believe that they can, yes, unless something has changed with CDD, but in the past, yes, they could.
Yeah, I haven't run across that since I've been doing it, but I would think so.
Yep.
And then a question, can you repeat the Vermont workers site address for the 2 free courses? And I think Brian is typing an answer to that right now.
Yes. So it is vtworkers.vsc.edu. I'm going to put it in the chat right now. So VT is in Vermont, workers.vsc.edu. And while I'm talking, I just wanted to circle back to, I mentioned earlier the VT Digger article and pieces about, I do want to emphasize that funding is still limited And so it's really important that you're working with the admissions office at each of the respective Vermont State Colleges schools to check in on that. CCV has funding available, but I would connect with the admissions office at each of the other institutions to make sure there is availability for that as we go forward. Because as we see, with this has been some unprecedented funding we received from the legislature, and we have received an incredible response from that, which is great for our students.
Thank you, Ryan. Before we send this out and put this well, not before the recording, but before we send the slides out, Ryan, I'll add that Vermont Workers information onto the slide presentation as well.
Wonderful, thank you.
I think that's it for the questions. If somebody has a question, you might want to go ahead and put it in right now. Otherwise, I'm just going to ask, I'll start with Marilyn. Do you have any last thoughts or recommendations or tips?
No, other than to say this really is unprecedented. Vermont has never had money available to help students, to help current employees go to school like we have right now. And I would just encourage all of you to encourage your staff to take advantage of this opportunity that is here for this year. Some of these programs live till next year, but then there's no assurance of what's going to happen. So taking advantage of them while we've got them, I think is incredibly important.
Yeah, that is a very important message. Ryan?
Well, I would say Marilyn stole a little bit of my thunder there. I think just want to double on what she said, that this is, if there was ever a time that a student has thought about either going back or accessing the Vermont State Colleges system or higher education institutions, now is the time to do that. The legislature has provided Vermonters with an incredible amount of money to be able to take that next step in their career or to embark on a new career. And now is certainly the time in which folks can take advantage of the funding that's available to get them further along on that pathway.
Okay, thank you. We do have a couple other additional questions that came in. The first one is there any wiggle room? If they have staff who are beginning in the fall and we're asking them to start working towards a degree, how can they then access the grant since they wouldn't have worked for 3 months? So I guess you're talking about specifically that CDD grant. Is there a possibility of joining, and then is there a possibility of joining Teach later in the year? In terms of the 3 months for the CDD tuition grant, that is a requirement that the state has put in place. I don't know that there's much wiggle room in that. I would think if it was 2 months and 2 weeks, maybe, but if they are really just not even a month into the program, I don't know. I would encourage you to reach out to me, and I'm happy to verify that information with the Child Development Division. But right now, that is a requirement. And then Brenda, the question, is there a possibility of joining Teach later in the year?
Yep, Teach is a rolling enrollment, so you don't have to, a student doesn't have to just come on for September. They can come on and at any time, in any semester. And as far as the 3 months, I would have you, suggest that you reach out to me separately and we can talk about that. There might be. This has just come up, and that's where our revisiting some of the policies discussion has come from. So please reach out to me and I'm happy to talk with you further.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The last question that I have here is, can you explain further about how someone with an unrelated bachelor's could receive funding for the peer review for licensure? That becomes a kind of specific question related to a specific person. And I'm going to ask that if they're interested in the CDD funding for that they call me directly to talk about that.
That would also apply to the possibility of a Teach Vermont Higher Education Collaborative Scholarship. So Ruth, please feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to have a conversation with you about that.
Great, thank you. Brenda, is there anything, any last thoughts or tips that you want to leave anyone with?
I will echo what Marilyn and Ryan said and just share, as an early educator in Vermont for, I'm going to say it's been 30 years. That shows you how old I am. This is an unprecedented time where there is so many opportunities. I would, again, as they did, stress if you have staff that is interested, or if you're a family child care provider and you're on the call and you've ever had an interest in taking a course or working towards a degree, now is the time. There's so many wonderful opportunities. So just reach out to us, you know, if you need help or have more questions, and just apply and get started.
Thank you, Brenda.
Sure.
And I'm going to echo what everyone has said before me, and I can't stress enough that if there are questions, if a staff person has any interest, please have them reach out and reach out to the institution that they're interested in to get information. Contact VSAC, contact those institutions directly to get the best information, the most updated and accurate information. I want to thank everyone again for attending today. This, as I said, this webinar will be posted, the recording will be posted on the Vermont VTAEYC website. We're also working on a document that will be posted on there with this information as well. Thank you again. Thank you to all the presenters for the wonderful information. Really appreciate your time today, and have a good day, everyone. Bye.